Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make this Maisy skirt. She is flirty, she is flouncy, and she is festival ready. So let's get started. Alright, so for this project I've chosen to use two different types of yarn. I like to work with cotton, so I've got an 8-ply yarn here, and then I have a 4-ply yarn here. So this one is pretty much half the weight of this one. Now the reason I'm using these two yarns is firstly it's what I have and it's the colors that I'm working with to match the top that I've made, but also I'm going to be using the 8-ply to do the shell stitching part, and I'm going to be using the thinner 4-ply to do those double crochet rows in between. I want those rows to be quite wispy, and I think using a lighter yarn will give it that wispy, flowy effect. But you can use absolutely any yarn that you choose. It doesn't have to be cotton. It doesn't have to be this same weight. Pretty much this is a really forgiving pattern, and it's made to size, so we're not counting stitches, we're not counting gauges. Work with the colors that you want, work with the yarn that you want, and it will still come up absolutely beautiful. Now for the 8-ply, I'm going to be using a 3.5mm hook. That's to make the shell stitches. Once I start moving into those double crochets in between, I'm going to be using a 6mm hook. Now I chose 6mm because this is quite a light yarn. If I was using an 8-ply or a heavier weight yarn to do those double crochets in between, you'd want to move up to a 10mm hook. So you need quite an oversized hook for the yarn that you'll be using. Will make a little bit more sense as we go along, so let's get started. Now I'm going to be starting with my 3.5mm hook with my 4-ply yarn just to start with the waistband, and then I'll switch to the larger hook. So for our waistband, we're going to be making a rib style waistband. It just adds that little bit more stretch. I'm going to choose to chain 11. That's the height that I want my waistband at, but you can choose the height that you want your waistband at and chain that amount of chains. So if you like a thick waistband, if you like a thin waistband, do it to how you like it. So we're going to start by making a slip stitch. Pop your slip stitch on there and start to chain the amount of chains that you want for your waistband height. So as I said, I'm going to go 11. Alright, so once you have the amount of chains to make the height of the waistband that you want, you're going to go ahead and just chain one more. And then what you're going to do is just skip the first chain from the hook, go into the second, and work a single crochet. So pull through a loop and then pull through both, and we're just going to do that all the way back to the start of the chains that we've made. So insert into the next chain, pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And the next one, insert into that chain there, yarn over and pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. Into the next one, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. And just keep doing this until you get back to the first chain that you made. Okay, so I'm almost back at the start of those chains I made. I've just got one more to go, so I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through both of those loops on my hook. So once we're back at the start, all that we want to do is chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. Now for this next row, and every row after for the waistband, it's going to be a little bit different. So if you take your work and turn it onto its side, you'll see all of these V's. So they're all of your stitches, and you'll see that the V has a front loop. Oops, sorry. You'll see that your V has a front loop, which is this one here, and a back loop, which is this one here. So from now on, we're only going to work into the back loop only, whereas if we were doing a normal single crochet, we would be working under both of those loops, but instead we're only going to work into the back loop here. Alright, so you've chained one, you've turned your work, and into that first stitch from the hook, we're going to go under that back loop only, yarn over, pull through a loop, and yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. Once again, for the next stitch, we're going to go into the back loop only, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And then for the next one, we're going to go into that back loop only, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. One more time. Into the next stitch, we're going to go into that back loop only, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on your hook. And just keep doing this until you reach the start of the row, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I'm nearly finished this row. I've just got one more where I'm going to go into that back loop only, pull through a loop, yarn over, and pull through both on my hook. And you can see already that it's starting to form a ridge in between these rows, and that's what's going to give you that stretchy knit ribbed look. So once you've gotten to the end, go ahead and chain one and turn your work. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. So into the back loop only, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. And just keep doing this until you reach the end of that row. Alright, so I'm almost back at the start. Just got one more stitch here that I'm going to go into the back loop, pull through a loop, and then pull through both on the hook. Chain one, turn my work, and we're just going to repeat the same thing. This first one is a little bit tricky. But into the back loop only, putting a single crochet into each stitch. So we're just going to repeat this as many times as it takes until you end up with a waistband that comfortably wraps around your waist. Now this does have a little bit of stretch to it, but when you are measuring it against your waist, you don't want to pull it to its full stretching capacity. You want it only at about half stretch. If you're anything like me, my hips are about 3 times wider than my waist. So if I was trying to pull up something that fitted snug on my waist, I wouldn't be able to pull it up past my hips. So we want to make this a little bit looser. But right now all that you need to do is just keep doing single crochets into that back loop only until you come up with something that you think might fit. I'll keep doing the same off camera, and once I've got a nice size waistband, I'll get back to you and show you a little bit more clearly about what I mean. Alright guys, so I finished my waistband and I'm just going to show you how I've made it to fit me. So you can see that around my waist, and this is where I like to wear my skirts, around my waist, it is a little bit oversized. But the reason that I've had to do this, that's with no stretch, is to actually get it over my hips and my thighs. To pull it up, it needs to be a lot bigger. So that's at no stretch over my hips and thighs. But if I pull it to full stretch, I will be able to get that over. So it depends on the shape of your body. If you've got larger hips, thighs, booty to pull it over, or if you have a more uniform shape, then you'll make the waistband to suit that. But for me, because this is going to be a little bit oversized on my hips, I'm going to go ahead and make a drawstring to be able to cinch that once I've got it up onto my waist. So if you're in the same position, we'll make a drawstring for this now. If you're not, if it slides over your waist and sits over your hips and sits perfectly on your waist, skip the next part. You won't be needing a drawstring. Okie dokie, so now that you have a waistband to a size that you're happy with, you want to lay your waistband out flat. We're going to connect it, so just make sure that there's no twists or kinks. Bring one end up to the end that you're working on and turn those two ends on their side. And what we're going to do, we're just going to be working the inside loop of each of these. So here's the outside loop, and that's the inside loop. Same here. There's the outside loop and there's the inside loop. So what we'll do is just insert our hook into the inside loop of this one, and then we're going to insert our hook into the inside loop of that one. Then we will yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and then pull through the loop that's also on the hook. Then we move into the next one, insert into the inside loop, and this inside loop, yarn over, pull through both loops that are on the hook, on your work, and pull through that loop that's on the hook. Next one, inside loop, and inside loop of this one, yarn over, pull through both of those loops and pull through that loop on your hook, and just continue this until you get down to the bottom. Okay, so once you have your waistband connected, you just want to turn it inside out so that we're working the right side up. And then what you want to do is go ahead and count the number of rows that you have. It's pretty easy when you're working with this rib stitch because you have a ridge on this side, so that's one row. And then you have a ridge on this side, so that's another row. So each of those ridges are a row, so you can really just run your fingers along it. One on the front, one on the back makes 2, one on the front makes 3, one on the back makes 4, and so on and so forth, until you have counted all the rows that you have in that waistband. So I have 118 rows here. I'm just going to write that number down. We're going to need that number later, but for the waistband, we can really just wing it. To make the spaces for the drawstring to go through, I'm going to chain 5, and then I'm going to skip 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 into the 5th space, or the end of the 5th row. I'm going to do a single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 5, whoop, skip 4 into that 5th space. I'm going to do a single crochet, and I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. So I might get to the end and chain 5 and only have 3 to skip. Then that's okay. It doesn't matter here. These are just loops for your drawstring to go through. So continue the pattern and just work with whatever you've got left at the end, and I'll meet you back there. So I'm coming back to the seam in my waistband, and I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the one that we slip stitched into to begin. So I've got 4 spaces. My maths isn't really right on that. I should have had some extra. So I'm going to do the same thing. Chain 5, skip 4. But if you've got 3 spaces, chain 4, skip 3, etc. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm going to do is come right over to where we made that first slip stitch. I'm going to insert my hook into there. Oh goodness me. Insert my hook into that slip stitch that we made at the beginning and do a single crochet. Alright, so now we have these chain spaces that we made. I've got chain spaces of 5, so I'm going to do 5 single crochets into each of those chain spaces. So I'm going to insert my hook into that chain space, yarn over and pull through a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook, and I'm going to do that 5 times into that same chain space. And then I have the single crochet that I made between them. I'm going to insert my hook into that single crochet. She's a little bit tight. And I'm just going to do a slip stitch into that single crochet. Now I'm at the next chain space of 5, and I'm going to do 5 single crochets into that chain space. Now I'm at the single crochet space in between. I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, and pull that through the loop that's on my hook. So making a slip stitch in there, and just continue this. So however many chains you have in your chain space, do that amount of single crochets in there, and then slip stitch into the single crochet in between those chain spaces, and I'll meet you at the end. So I've just got this one last chain space to to do my 5 single crochets in. As mentioned before, if your last chain space was only 4 single crochets, 3 single crochets, you want to be doing that amount into that chain space. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of where we slip stitched earlier. So now we have all of these lovely little spaces where we can weave our drawstring into. We're not going to make our drawstring now because it's just going to get in the way of everything else that we're going to be working on. So we will make that at the end. I'm just going to cut my yarn now. Ooh, lights, camera, action. So I'm just going to cut my yarn. And I'm going to weave in these ends that I have. And I've got no idea what's going on with that light. Sorry, I'll fix it while I weave in my ends. But I'm going to weave in my ends and then we're going to start on the body of the skirt. So I'll see you soon. Alright, I'm sorry guys, but my ring light has died. So hopefully you can still see quite clearly. I can never see when I'm making these videos. It's just not my usual crochet position. Usually I'm hunched over with my work around my face. So as long as you can see, that's all that matters. But now we have our waistband connected, our ends weaved in. Now's a really good time to go back and just double, oh, excuse my hands. So yeah, I work a bit of a man's job with my hands in the bush all day, so they do get a bit battered. So please excuse them. Sorry, but now's a really good time to go back and count all of your rows and just make sure the number that you had earlier is right, because this is where we're really going to need to get our numbers on point. So to move on to the body of the skirt, I'm going to change my yarn. I'm going to move to that 8-ply white cotton. If you want to use the same yarn, that's fine. If you want to use a different yarn, then change it at this point. And I'm going to insert that into where I made my seam earlier. Now you may remember that I said that I had 118 stitches in my waistband, or 118 rows. I'm going to need a multiple of 8 as my final amount of stitches. And I'm going to want to round up instead of rounding down to still be able to fit this over my hips. I don't want to decrease just yet. So a multiple of 8, I'm going to have to bring my stitch count up to 120. So I'm going to have to do 2 increases. Right now is the time to take the number of the total rows that you have and find out whether you're going to have to increase and how many increases you're going to have to do to make a multiple of 8. I'll put some numbers up on the screen which will hopefully help you. But once you've realized how many that you need to increase, all that we're going to do is a row of single crochet all around the bottom of this waistband into each of these row ends. And for me, I'm going to have to choose 2 row ends where I'm going to make an increase and do 2 single crochets into those row ends instead. So I'm going to start here, do a single crochet, and you know what? I might do my increase into the next one. Doesn't really matter where you do it. So I'll do 1 single crochet into the end of that row and then add another one right on top of it. And then into the next, I'll just do a standard and another into the next and another into the next and another. And I'm just going to keep going around doing a single crochet into the end of each of these rows of the waistband. And once I get to the front of my waistband, that's where I'll probably do my second increase. So my second 2 double crochets into the 1 stitch. And then I'm going to count them and just make sure that I have 120. And if you could count yours and just make sure that you have something that is divisible by 8. Okie dokie, so I have 119 single crochets going around the bottom of this waistband. I've just got one more to do right in here, and then I'm going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. If you want to go back and count and make sure that you have the right amount, now's a good time. But at the same time, this might not be a very popular opinion in crochet, but everything can be fudged. You can make things work. So I'm sure I'll fudge this up as I go and give you a few hints and tricks to make it work. Anything's possible. So from this point, we're going to chain 4. So this will count as a double crochet plus 1. Then we're going to skip 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Into that 7th stitch, we're going to do a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now into this same stitch, we're going to be making a V. So the V in this pattern will be the double crochet, then chain 3, and then we're going to do another double crochet into that exact same stitch. And that's your first V. Then we're going to chain 6. Oh, sorry, we're chaining 4. 3, 4. We're going to skip 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And into that 7th stitch, we are going to do a double crochet. So yarn over, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2, making our V. So we're going to chain 3. Sorry, my yarn's getting caught. And then we're going to do another double crochet straight into that same stitch. And we're going to repeat this all the way around. All right, so I'm almost at the end. Let's say that you counted, you double counted, and you've still ended up with the wrong amount at the end. These things happen. What you can do is frog the entire thing, go back and start, or you can just kind of wing it. Okay, so for example, I've just done my last V stitch there, and let's say I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches remaining, or 4 because that one's in there. I don't want to go back and frog it, it'll be fine. So I'm going to chain, let's say chain 3, double crochet into this last stitch here, chain 3, and for the V stitch, double crochet into the same stitch. So it is a bit of a smaller gap than the rest, because for the rest we've actually skipped 6, but hey, once we start making the shells, it's going to spread that out a little bit, so there is room for error. You can make things work. What we're going to do now is go into the first chain of this chain 4, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So at this point you should have a hem here of 4 chains, a V stitch with 3 chains in between the 2 double crochets, 4 chains, a V stitch with 3 double crochets in between, 3 chains in between the 2 double crochets, all the way around. If you fudged it a little, that's okay. We can start to fix it now. So we've slip stitched into that first chain there. What we're going to do is just do a single crochet into this chain 4 space. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through a loop and pull through 2. Into this chain 3 space, our V, we're going to work 7 double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into that chain 3 space, pull through a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. That's 1. We're going to do 6 more. So that's 2, 3, all into this 1 space, 4, 5, 6, and 7 double crochets, all into that chain 3 space. And that's your first shell. So then we're going to just do a single crochet into this chain 4 space. So insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both. Now we're back to a chain 3 space and we're going to do another 7 double crochets into that space. And pretty much we're going to repeat this. So into every chain 3 space, we're going to do 7 double crochets. Into every chain 4 space, we're just going to do 1 single crochet. So keep doing that all the way around and I will meet you at the end. Okay, so I'm coming back to the end of my round. If you fudged things a little at the end of last round, don't change anything now. Keep the pattern exactly the way it is. And that way we're going to get our stitches back up to where they need to be. So I have a single crochet to go into that chain 4 space. And then my last V, I'm going to put 7 double crochets into. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 1 that we made in this chain 4 space. And here we have a beautiful, sweet row of shells as our first detail on our skirt body. And using the thicker 8-ply yarn on this really gives this beautiful body and is going to give the skirt structure as opposed to the wispiness of the next rows. So I'm going to change my yarn color now. You can change your yarn however you like, but for me, I'm going to pull through my 4-ply yarn and pull both ends of that yarn to secure it. Now I'm going to remove my 3.5mm hook and I'm going to get my oversized hook. So I'm using the 6mm hook. You might be using a 10mm hook, and I'm going to start working with the oversized hook for this next round. So first I'm going to chain 3, and we want these chains to be really, really loose to give us that wispy, oversized effect. So chain 3, and that counts as our first double crochet. Then I'm going to do a double crochet into each stitch around Except with this round, I want to increase my stitches by 8. And you can do this evenly by counting all of your stitches along these shells, and you can put a stitch marker in divisions of 8 so that at the end of it you have 8 more stitches than what you started with. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to fold my work like this. And I'm going to work 2 increases into this area, which is an extra of 2 double crochets to the amount of stitches I have. And then I'm going to work 2 increases into the side, or roughly the side area of my skirt, 2 increases into the front of my skirt here, and then 2 increases roughly around the area of that side there. And that's going to increase my total stitch count by 8. So you can be pedantic, you can pop some stitch markers in to remind you where to increase, or you can just do it the way that I'm doing, roughly in sections, so that you have an extra 8 stitches by the end of this round. So we have our chain 3, and then in the next space I'm going to do my first increase. So I'm going to yarn over, insert into that stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then I'm going to go back into that same stitch with another double crochet. So that's my first increase. Now I'm going to do my second increase for this section of the skirt. So I'm going to yarn over, insert into the next stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I'm going to do another double crochet into that same stitch. So I've just done 2 increases, which means my stitch count is up by 2. I want it to be up by 8 by the end of this round. So I'm going to just do 1 double crochet into each of these stitches all the way around until I get to what would be the side of my skirt. And then I'm going to do another 2 increases. So just 1 double crochet into, whoops a daisy, 1 double crochet into the next stitch. Keep it loose, it might feel messy, but it's going to give it a beautiful effect once it is finished. So now I'm getting to roughly where the side of my skirt will be. So it's here that I'm going to do another 2 increased stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, insert into that next stitch, pull through, oops a daisy, yarn over, insert into that stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's my first double crochet, and I'm going to make another double crochet into that same stitch. So that's 1 increase, and then into the very next one I'm going to do another increase, so another 2 double crochets into that very next stitch. So I've just done 2 increases here, and that means I've increased my total stitch count for this row by 4. I want to increase it by 8, so once I get to roughly here on my skirt, I'm going to do another 2 increases, and then once I get to this side I'll be doing another 2 increases, which will bring my stitch total from 180 to 188. So I'm going to meet you all the way back here when I'm finished. Okay, so I am coming towards the end of this round. I've just got a couple of stitches left to double crochet in, and I have already increased 8 times on this round. Once you finish your last double crochet of the round, you're going to do a slip stitch into the third of the chain 3 that you made at the start of this round. So insert your hook, pull through and pull through. And that's round 1 complete. So we're starting to get this beautiful, airy, lacy, oversized double crochet happening here. And by increasing, we're going to just filling out the body of the skirt a little bit more. So we're going to move on to the next round. We're going to chain 3. And we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do a double crochet into each of these double crochet stitches that we've made around, but we also want to increase by 8 this round as well. So I'm going to do a double crochet into this first stitch, and then once again I'm going to do my first 2 increases in this back area. So yarn over, insert into the next stitch, do a double crochet, yarn over, and put another double crochet right into that very same stitch. And then I'm going to do another increase into the next stitch. So 1 double crochet, and 2 double crochets. So I've just increased by 2 this round, and I'm going to do the exact same as what I did last round. In this general area on the edge, I'm going to put another 2 increases. In the general front area, I'm going to put another 2 increases, and then on this side I'm going to do another 2 increases. So by the end of this round, I would have gone from my original 180 stitches to 100 and maths so 196. So I would have increased by 16, and what that's going to do is allow for the next row of shells to have 2 extra shells. So we're blooming out in our skirt shape. So if you just want to go ahead and do another round of these oversized double crochets, and just make sure that you increase 8 times somewhere around the skirt, and I will meet you when you're finished. Okay, so I have just done my last double crochet of this round. Here is the chain 3 that we made at the beginning, so I am just going to slip stitch into the top chain of that chain 3. Now at this point you should have a beautiful, whimsy, fluffy, flary, floaty 2 rounds of oversized double crochets, and over the course of those 2 rounds you should have increased 16 times. So you can go ahead and count all of your stitches. It's not too difficult because you just count the double crochets themselves, or you can just trust the process, and if it turns out that you've made a few more or a few less, we can always fix it. We can always fudge it. The perfection of imperfection, hey? So what we're going to do next is we're going to change back to our shell yarn. I cut my shell yarn. I did have every intention of carrying it with me, but I got a little bit worried that I'd run out of yarn, so I cut it. So we're going to reattach that, and we're going to start another round of the shell stitching. For now though, it is such a beautiful day outside here in tropical far north Queensland, and I can't sit inside all day, so I'm going to go for a hike and I'm going to go for a swim in a waterfall. So I'm going to end the video here, and I will meet you back. I will upload a part 2 to pick up where we've left off, and things should start building quite quickly by this point with this skirt. So happy crocheting, thanks for watching, and I will see you for part 2.